Well, we just had ourselves another follow through, ladies and gentlemen, a massive 2 standard deviation plus type of move in the markets. The S&P 500 was up 1.71%. Today's episode on the Stock Market Brief Show is called Letting Your Foot Off the Gas, because there is a signal that did occur that I want to make everyone aware of. And if you're in the Discord community and you pay attention closely to the zones where you can get a fractal view of the markets, it's something that I share. It's a document that looks like this that gives you a quick scope of the markets from a fractal view. Over here, really quickly to explain it, these are bands. They're known as the bridge bands. And it gives us, like I said, a good view of individual assets. But what I do is I extract a bulk data to get a good fractal overview of the markets. And you have a low end of the band, you have a high end of the band, and then you have this dot, which is the price action going to the lower end into the higher end. And when this changes colors, say green or dark green, you're getting to the lower end of the band, red or dark red, the higher end. Now, the signal that I want to talk specifically is where we just landed with the SPX coming up into their higher end band, and then the VIX coming into its lower end band. So specifically, what that looks like here on the zone document today would look like this. The dot is starting to turn red where it says the upside of the band is about 1% higher than where we currently stand. And then the VIX, we're seeing a green dot near the lowest end of the band. Now, I want you to pay close attention. I'm going to follow back up on this because there's something very secretive here that I'm not pointing out until the end that I find to be a little odd, a little, makes me kind of curious. So now when this happens, it's just telling us that, hey, it doesn't mean that we're going to crash by any means, but it does tell us that, hey, things are getting a little frothy here. Perhaps we need to consolidate. And the same goes when we get huge hits to the downside and the VIX spikes up. Take a look here on August 5th it was. Look at how the S&P 500 had very minimal to the downside, and then the VIX, right, boom, we're way up to the upper side of its range. And what happened there shortly thereafter? Well, obviously the VIX started to come off and we started to see the S&P 500 rise. So when is the last time that we've seen we had a red dot in the SPX and a green dot in the VIX? Okay, so I'm looking specifically for green dot VIX, red dot SPX. Okay, so the most recent time prior to this was March of this year, and it was like mid-March. And what did we get? We got the red over here and then the green VIX towards the lower end right over here. And what happened there shortly after? Things got frothy. We hit a new high in the S&P 500. It came off, and then we eventually came off a little bit more. But more specifically, it started to come in the near term like such, and the VIX started to then there elevate. What was the time prior to that? Well, it was actually the day prior to that gave us a warning on this specific day where the VIX dropped and this was up. So we had 2 days of this signal kind of giving us insight that, hey, things are getting a little frothy here. Maybe watch out. Okay, so that's the most recent time. The time before that was right here, and this was the beginning of March, just shortly there after, or right before we saw the other one. And this one was on this big day where we had the S&P 500 near its upper end, VIX down to the lower end on this move down. And then there shortly thereafter, what did the VIX do? It started climbing, and the S&P 500 didn't do anything. It just consolidated sideways, and that's totally fine. What about the time prior to that? The time before that was last year in December going into 2024. And you can see we had back-to-back signals right here. The VIX came off for a couple of days there, and you can see the S&P 500, both those days had that red dot. And what happened there shortly thereafter? Well, the S&P 500 managed to rally, and it kind of just stalled out, went a little bit higher, and then came back in. So really just went through a period of consolidation after its monster run-up into and around the middle part of December of 2023. The time before that was here in November of 2023, and you can see we had a pretty strong move, similar to what we're seeing right now. Actually, we had this strong move rally. What took place thereafter when we got this signal? The VIX still managed to come in here quite a bit, but you can see that the price action went up slightly, and then we got hit down to the downside. So this was just a consolidation of the signal to work off some of these oversold levels. Now, the time before that was right over here, and this was in October of 2023. And you can see the S&P 500 rallied a little bit. The VIX came off, which gave us the red dot and green dot. And what happened there shortly thereafter, we consolidated and ended up seeing the VIX rise a little bit, coming back into the mid to higher end of that band. Okay, so based off of these examples, and I could go back further, we have that data in the Discord if you want to see it for yourself, and you can go back. This is good. This is, I think, enough signals to give us an idea that, hey, there's typically in these areas, we can see periods of consolidations and or pullbacks. And we've sometimes seen the signals stack up on each other where you get a couple of days of this. Now, the S&P 500 has been on a monster tear. We had a gap up and rally. That was the follow-through day. We gapped up and rallied again today, which was another follow-through day. 2 standard deviation move outside of the weekly expected move. We're above the rising 5-day moving average, and now we're in positive gamma territory. So a period of consolidation would be completely healthy. A shakeout move, even to the back into the weekly expected move, that would be completely healthy, be it that we only have Friday left of this market. Now, what I want to talk specifically about that probably no one's seen, and this is the thing that I wanted to circle back on, is specifically where we are now is a little interesting. Notice the upper part of the band compared to where price action is, it's 141% away. So on this move up, the bands themselves on the VIX specifically, I'm talking about the VIX, we're talking where the price action is currently, the band is still way, way elevated, 140% elevated. Now, while we're at the lower end, which there's still minus 12% to the downside. Now, what I find so interesting about this is if we go back to the prior times where we came and had a green dot, well, right over here, it was only 18%. Right over here, it was only 17%. Right over here, it was 20%. Right over here, it was 7 to 9%. Over here, it was about 51%. That was a little bit larger one. And then over here, we had 21%. Now, this could be because we saw a massive spike in the VIX, really kind of expanding on these bands. But when they expand, remember, there's always periods of contraction shortly thereafter. And with bands this elevated, and they're still kind of pointing up and out, this to me just is a little bit of a warning sign that we could still be in a very volatile environment. And I think that is something that, I haven't really seen how it played out in the past. But what I can say here is what we based off of the prior history, it does look like even if we get another couple signals that will probably be in for a period of consolidation at some point. And yes, we're still above a rising 5-day. Yes, we're in positive gamma territory now. Yes, we had our follow through day. Yes, we had another. So the signs of the market are very positive, but you got to be very selective with how you approach moving forward. That's why we titled this, obviously, taking the foot off the gas a little bit. It doesn't mean come to a halt or jump out of the car or make a U-turn. It means letting off the gas a little bit and making sure that things consolidate and see what price action does when it's actually tested. Because we actually have not seen the market get tested yet. It's been one strong rally up. That's all I got for you on today's episode, everybody. Hope it helped out. See you later.